Okay, so we're taking a look at our two-way table worksheet. Let's look at our first example together, student athletes. The data from a survey of 440 students are shown in the table. The students were asked whether or not they were on the honor roll and whether or not they played a sport. So here's our table of information right here. There were 440 students that were polled, and they were asked if they are only on the honor roll, if they only play a sport, or if they're both. So you couldn't be more than one of these. You're either just on the honor roll and that's it, you just play a sport and that's it, or you do both. You play a sport and you're on the honor roll. So complete the Venn diagram. So what we have here is this area right here is the only honor roll students. So look at your table and decide how many students would go in this only honor roll section. For the sports section, this would be kids that only played a sport over on this side. Now where the Venn diagrams cross are the students that are both. The students that both play a sport and are on the honor roll. So we have 250 inside. There are 115 kids that do not play a sport, but they are on the honor roll, and 45 kids that do play a sport but are not on the honor roll. Okay, number 2. Is the ratio of the value of a subtotal, relative frequency is the ratio of the value of a subtotal to the value of the total. What is the relative frequency of a student that is on the honor roll and plays a sport to all students that are on the honor roll? So we want to create a ratio of student that is on the honor roll and plays a sport to all students on the honor roll. So we're going to make a ratio out of these two numbers. Okay, students that are on the honor roll and play a sport are 250. So there are 250 kids that are both. Ratios are written with a colon, compared to students just on the honor roll, or to all students on the honor roll. Okay, so 250 are both. How many students are on the honor roll? Let's think about this for a second. I have 115 that are honor roll only, and 250 that are both. So for these students right here, I'll underline it in red. All students on the honor roll include the honor roll only and honor roll sport kids. So we're looking at 115 plus 250. So we have a total of 365 kids that are included in the honor roll. Number 3, is there evidence that students that play sports are also on the honor roll? That's what you have to decide. So does this prove to you that students that play sports will definitely be honor roll? That's what you have to think about. You answer that on your own. Next page. Two-way table shows data from one sample group as it relates to different categories. The same information from a Venn diagram on the previous page is shown below as a two-way table, where one category is represented by rows and the other category is represented by columns. The two categories are shown are play a sport and on the honor roll. So let's take a look at the chart that you have there. So what we were given was the number of students on the honor roll, the number of students that play a sport. Okay. So on the honor roll only was 115. Take a look at your Venn diagram. Play a sport only was 45. And then the kids that were both, remember that's the one that we added together with my 115, was 250. So 250 play both. Okay, so 250 are both honor roll and play a sport. For this 45 right here is only play a sport, not on the honor roll. 115 is on the honor roll but does not play a sport. Okay, one thing I want you to look at is look at this number right here. This number was not talked about on the last example. What about kids that don't play a sport and are not on the honor roll? Okay, think about that again for a second. Kids that don't play a sport and are not on the honor roll. That would be 30 kids. If And you can go back and take a look and see. But this would be a piece of information that would be left out of a frequency table that you would have to come up with on your own. Okay, so I just wanted to explain how that table is set up. Let's take a look at the next page, the next part. Oops. Here's an example. Felipe surveyed students at his school. He found that 78 students owned a cell phone. 57 of those students also own an MP3 player. So 78 have a cell phone. 57 of those 78 kids also own an MP3 player. There are 13 that do not own a cell phone but own an MP3 player. So there are 13 that do not own a cell phone but do own an MP3 player. 9 students don't own either. Construct a two-way table. So let's take a look. So this right here, 57 are the kids that are both an MP3 player and a cell phone. 57 kids. It's right here. Okay. Okay, let's look at the next part. Let's look at these 13 kids. 13 students don't own a cell phone, but own an MP3 player. So no cell phone. Okay, here's our no cell phone. Yes, MP3 player. 13. And then if we look at our last one, the 9 students don't own either device. That's where our 9 comes from. Okay. Our total, 78 kids, and that tells us right here. 78 students own a cell phone. Okay, so 78 students own a cell phone. Cell phone, 78 total own a cell phone. So we need to fill in these missing blanks. So if I know, if we're looking right here, I have a little side note. Okay, this is going to help us with this top row. Okay, so step 1 is create the table. Step 2 is use our reasoning to complete it. So if I have 57 kids that have an MP3 player and a cell phone, 78 kids total have a cell phone, what number would go here? 57 plus what equals 78? 57 plus 21 equals 78. So at this point, we're just kind of looking at what's empty and what we know that we can fill in. Okay, so if I have 2 of my numbers, I can come up with the third. So if I look at my MP3 player row, 57 and 13 makes 70. I look at my no MP3 player row, 21 also own a cell phone but no MP3 player. 9 don't have either. So that's 30 kids in the no MP3 player area. 70 plus 30 is 100. And so if I look at my total row, 78 plus what will equal 100? 22. So basically you just find a spot that you can determine an answer, and then it'll kind of domino effect from there. Okay, now you try this next one on your own. So hit pause and do that one by yourself. Oops. So again, pause, do that one by yourself. Okay, so we're going to look now at the next part, patterns and two-way tables, going deeper. How can you construct and interpret two-way tables? The frequency is the number of times an event occurs. A two-way table shows frequencies categorized in 2 ways. The rows indicate one categorization, the columns indicate another. So again, this is when we are looking at 2 different pieces of information that are connected to each other. So let's look at example 1. A poll of 120 town residents found that 40% own a bike. Of those who own a bike, 75% shop at the town's farmer's market. Of those who don't own a bike, 25% shop at the farmer's market. So what we're looking at is this farmer's market wants to see, okay, in my town, how many people own a bike? Of those people that own a bike, how many visit the farmer's market? They would want to know that because maybe they want to set up some way to draw more people on bikes. Maybe they realize people that own bikes shop at the farmer's market, so they can kind of adjust their offerings to people that are on bikes. So there are a lot of different reasons why you would want one of these type of tables. Okay, in this section, you're going to be looking at percentages as well. So you're going to have to reach in your memory on how to work with percentages. Okay, each step below, you're not going to take all the information and fill the table out right now. A, B, C, D, E, and F are going to walk you through everything. I'm not going to talk. I'm just going to show you each step as it's done. You're going to fill it out with me, and then you're on your own. Stop and ask me if you have any questions.